Abdel Fattah al-Sisi officially declared winner in Egypt's presidential polls, calls on Egyptians to help open a new page in the country's history. U.S. President Barack Obama is in Poland, where he's expected to meet Ukraine's newly elected president for talks. And China boosts security in central Beijing as the world marks 25 years since the crackdown on protesters in Tiananmen Square. Well, good morning and welcome to i24News here. I'm David Matlin, now with a look at the world's top stories. First, Egypt's election commission officially announced that Abdel Fattah al-Sisi won a sweeping victory in the country's presidential election with 96.9% of the vote. The turnout was a relatively low 47.5%, and the only other challenger received 3% of the vote. Al-Sisi had been widely expected to win, as many in Egypt see him as a hero for ending the divisive presidency of Muslim Brotherhood leader Mohamed Morsi nearly 1 year ago. Well, i24News reporter Danny Swibel has the story.
Egypt woke up to a new president today. Ex-Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Sisi was declared Egypt's president-elect Tuesday, winning 96.9% of the vote in an election nearly a year after he toppled President Mohamed Morsi.
The future is a white page. It's in our hands to fill it with bread, freedom, human dignity, and social justice. If we're divided, then we're at fault against our nation, ourselves, and our children.
The election turnout was only 47.45%, with voting extended last week amid fears of a low turnout. Al-Sisi himself even urged more voters to come out, which signaled a wide segment of the population was apathetic or boycotted the election. Morsi's Brotherhood, crushed by a massive crackdown following his overthrow and detention, had boycotted the vote. More than 3 years after the overthrow of President Hosni Mubarak, the economy is still in ruins, with unrest driving away much-needed tourist revenues and foreign investments. Some view a vote for Al-Sisi as a vote for stability.
I want safety and security and peace from him, and we don't want this for ourselves. We want this for our children and for our people. We don't want any more than that.
President-elect Al-Sisi, appointed by Morsi as defense minister before he overthrew him, will take office by the end of the month. Al-Sisi's lopsided victory had been certain, with many lauding the retired field marshal as a hero for ending Morsi's divisive rule in July. While security and stability may increase under the new president, it is also the fear that extensive crackdowns that have killed at least 1,400, mostly Islamists, will also increase.
Well, Saudi Arabia's King Abdullah congratulated Sisi on his win, describing it as a historic day, and vowed to continue support for the Arab world's most populous country. Well, the king said Egyptians faced many challenges ahead and called for unity and for Egyptians to support the new president. During his election campaign, Sisi vowed stronger ties with Arab Gulf countries and said that Saudi Arabia would be his first official stop outside of Egypt. And a presidential election took place yesterday in Syria as Bashar al-Assad looks to tighten his grip on power. His regime forces have battled a variety of opposition and jihadist rebels throughout the devastating ongoing 3-year war. Polls closed at midnight, and results are expected on Thursday. i24News reporter Danny Swibel brings us some reactions to the election.
Videos posted to a social media website purportedly show a neighborhood in rural Damascus come under heavy bombardment by government forces on the same morning Syrians take to the polls in a wartime election set to extend President Bashar al-Assad's rule. Assad was seen on Syrian state TV with his wife headed to a polling station in Damascus where they cast their ballots. The election is widely expected to deliver an overwhelming victory for Assad in the midst of a devastating civil war, but which his opponents have dismissed as a charade.
The brutal Assad regime is preparing for a series of bombings and shelling of polling stations on the day of the elections. We call on our people not to fall prey to the regime's dirty plans.
Syrians in Brussels staged mock vote protests outside European Parliament, dismissing the vote as illegitimate and calling for further involvement of the international community to end the conflict.
They are together here to ask the international community to take care and to keep its promises to the Syrian people who asked mainly and firstly for democracy and for dignity.
Syrians living in the Zaatari refugee camp in Jordan reiterated that the presidential elections are a farce. The people living in Zaatari are opposed to Bashar al-Assad's elections. Bashar al-Assad fell a long time ago, so it's done and there are no elections. We are saying to Arab nations that it's enough of this disrespect. How is it possible to have elections with Bashar al-Assad? Didn't they say Bashar al-Assad has fallen? Rebel fighters, the political opposition in exile, Western powers and Gulf Arabs say no credible vote can be held in a country where swaths of territory are outside state control and millions of people have been displaced and over 160,000 killed in the conflict. Apparently some have not received the memo.